The summer sun beat down on the hospital parking lot as Maya stood frozen, staring at the piece of paper in her trembling hands. Her husband Marcus pointed toward the building behind her. His face twisted with something she'd never seen before, disgust mixed with fear. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice cutting through the humid air like a knife. Maya looked down at the hospital bill she was holding. The numbers seemed to swim before her eyes. $83,000, and that was just from the last 3 weeks. She touched her swollen belly with her free hand, feeling their baby move inside her. She was 7 months pregnant, and the complications had started suddenly, without warning. "Marcus, please," she whispered. "We can figure this out together." But Marcus was already shaking his head, already backing away from her like she was something dangerous. "Figure it out. Maya, we're drowning. Every week there's another bill, another emergency, another night in the hospital. I didn't sign up for this." The ultrasound picture slipped from her other hand and floated to the ground. Their baby, their daughter, the little girl they'd planned to name Sophie, after Maya's grandmother. Marcus didn't even glance at it. "My lawyer will send you the divorce papers," he said, and then he turned and walked away. Maya watched him go, watched him climb into his car, watched him drive out of her life without looking back. She stood there for a long time, the hospital bill still clutched in her hand, the ultrasound picture lying on the hot pavement at her feet. Around her, the world continued as if nothing had happened. A family walked past, laughing. A bird sang in a nearby tree. Somewhere in the distance, a car horn honked. But Maya felt like she was standing in a bubble, separate from everything, unable to move or breathe or think. Finally, a nurse came out of the building and gently touched her shoulder. "Mrs. Chen, are you all right? Do you need to sit down?" Maya let herself be led back inside, back to the waiting area where she'd been sitting just 20 minutes ago, when Marcus had still been her husband, when she'd still believed he would stand by her through anything. The weeks that followed were the darkest of Maya's life. She moved back to her small apartment, the one she'd kept after marrying Marcus, grateful now that she'd never given it up completely. Every day brought new medical bills, new calls from collection agencies, new reminders of how alone she was. Her mother called every evening. "Come home to California," she pleaded. "Let me take care of you." But Maya had built her life in Chicago. Her job was here, her friends were here, and despite everything, she couldn't bring herself to run away. Besides, traveling in her condition was risky. The doctors had made that very clear. At night, when the city was quiet and she lay in bed feeling Sophie kick and turn inside her, Maya thought about her father. He had died 2 years ago, suddenly, from a heart attack. She still missed him every single day. He would have known what to do. He always knew what to do. Her father had been a quiet man, an accountant who worked long hours and came home tired, but always with a smile for his daughter. He'd never been wealthy. At least, that's what Maya had always believed. They'd lived in a modest house, driven ordinary cars, taken simple vacations. Her father had always said that happiness didn't come from money, but from the people you loved and the life you built. After his death, Maya had inherited a few $1,000s and some personal items. There had been paperwork, of course, and lawyers, but her mother had handled most of it. Maya had been too grief-stricken to pay much attention. She'd signed what needed to be signed and tried to move forward with her life. Now, sitting in her apartment with bills piled on the table and her husband gone, Maya found herself going through the box of her father's, things that she'd never fully unpacked, old photographs, his watch, a few books. At the bottom she found a large manila envelope with her name written on it in her father's careful handwriting. Inside was a letter and several official-looking documents. "My dearest Maya," the letter began, and she had to stop reading for a moment because seeing his words, his handwriting, made the grief feel fresh and new again. She took a deep breath and continued. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope your mother gave you this envelope as I instructed. I've lived my life in a particular way, keeping certain things private, and I hope you'll understand why. Your grandfather, my father, was a very successful businessman. When he died, he left everything to me, a sum of money I could never have imagined. But I watched what wealth did to my siblings, how it changed them, made them suspicious and greedy and unhappy. I didn't want that for our family. I wanted you to grow up normal, to work hard, to understand the value of things. So your mother and I lived simply, and we invested the money, and we waited. We waited for the right time to tell you. I'm sorry I ran out of time. But the money is yours now, held in trust. $50 million. Use it wisely, use it well, and remember that it doesn't define you. You define yourself. I love you always, Dad. Maya read the letter 3 times before the words truly sank in. Then she looked at the documents. Official papers from a law firm. Trust documents, account statements, all of it real. All of it hers. She sat in stunned silence as the evening light faded from her apartment. $50 million. Her father had been a multimillionaire, and she'd never known. She thought about their small house, her father's old car, the way he'd taught her to save her allowance and appreciate what she had. He'd given her something more valuable than money, she realized. He'd given her character. He'd taught her to be strong and independent and grateful. And now, when she needed it most, he was still taking care of her. The next morning, Maya met with the lawyers whose names were on the documents. They confirmed everything. The money was real, invested and growing over the years. They could transfer it to her immediately. "What about the medical bills?" she asked. The senior lawyer, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, smiled gently. "Those can be paid today if you'd like. All of them. And you'll still have more money than you could spend in several lifetimes." Maya paid the bills that afternoon. Every single one. The relief was overwhelming, like a physical weight lifting off her shoulders. But it was strange, too. The money solved her immediate crisis, but it didn't heal the hurt of what Marcus had done. It didn't erase the loneliness or the betrayal. 2 months later, Sophie was born, healthy, beautiful, perfect. Maya held her daughter in her arms and cried tears of joy and sorrow all mixed together. This should have been a moment shared with Marcus. But it wasn't, and gradually Maya realized that was okay. She had her daughter. She had her mother, who flew in from California and stayed for 6 weeks, helping with the baby and filling the apartment with love and laughter. She had her friends, who brought meals and gifts and endless support. And she had her father's final gift, not just the money, but the wisdom he'd tried to impart. Marcus called once, about 3 months after Sophie was born. Maya was surprised when his name appeared on her phone screen. "I heard you had the baby," he said, his voice uncertain. "I heard she's healthy." "She is," Maya replied, keeping her voice neutral. "I also heard. People are saying something about money." And there it was. Someone must have told him about her inheritance. Maya felt a strange calm settle over her. "Marcus, why are you calling?" "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "I panicked. The stress, the bills, I couldn't handle it. But I've had time to think, and I want to try again. We can work this out. We're still married technically, I never filed the papers. We could be a family." Maya looked across the room at Sophie, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Her daughter, her miracle, the little girl who would grow up, knowing that people's worth wasn't measured in money, that strength came from character, and that real love didn't run away when things got hard. "No, Marcus," she said softly. "We couldn't. Goodbye." She hung up the phone and blocked his number. Then she picked up Sophie and held her close, breathing in that sweet baby smell, feeling the tiny heartbeat against her chest. The money her father left her would provide security and opportunities. She would use it to give Sophie the best possible life, to support causes she believed in, to help others who found themselves in impossible situations. But the real inheritance, the one that truly mattered, was the lesson her father had taught her, that who you are is not what you have, but how you love, how you persevere, and how you treat others when the world gets difficult. Outside her window, the Chicago skyline glittered in the evening light. Maya smiled down at her sleeping daughter and whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." And somewhere she liked to imagine her father smiled back.